Hello, everybody. Welcome to our first inaugural webinar at NUM Research and Development Team. I am a sex worker, a member of Research and Development Team, and there are a few more people here to help me with maybe something that I might not know. And before we go any further, I want to point out that I don't know about you. I am 40 and I have not lived through a pandemic before. I don't know what to do. Nobody knows what to do. We're all making it up as we go along, and we all understand that there are many questions and nobody knows the answers. But luckily for all of us, there are plenty of sex workers in the UK, and together we will all have pieces of information that will help somebody else. So all this webinar is exactly this. None of us knows all the answers or have all the answers. We put together bits of information that we were able to find online. And if after that you have questions, we will do our best to answer them. So stay tuned until the very end when I will tell you how to about all the ways of how to ask us questions, including if you don't want to do it publicly through Twitter, for example. So let's move along. I've just presented you with part of the promised webinar, and now let's move on to tips. So here are the things that we're going to quickly go through in the next 15 minutes. And let's start with what sex workers do for sex workers. There is a number of hardship funds available to sex workers in the UK. The biggest one is Swarm Hardship Fund, of course. At the moment, they are giving £200 to a sex worker as a one-off payment. There is also Umbrella Lane Fund, which is available to Scotland-based sex workers. It is a payment of £150 per month per sex worker. If you are based in Ireland, whether it's the Republic of Ireland or Northern Ireland, you can be eligible for either SWAY or Ugly Mugs, i.e. hardship funds. You will also be eligible if you have sold sex in, well, anywhere in Ireland this year, even if you don't live there. So get in touch with them and see if you're eligible or not. As far as I know, SWAY can only give €100, and Ugly Mugs IE Fund is slightly bigger than that, so see if you want to apply there first. And finally, at some point, hopefully in April, NUM will be able to give food vouchers for maybe your nearest supermarket, so stay tuned and we will let people know when that becomes available. Other than that, there are some hardship funds that you can be eligible for, like the Young Women's Trust, which covers women between 18 and 30 years of age who live in poverty. There is the BBC Children in Need Fund if you have children, and Glasspool Fund covers people who live in poverty even after they access state support. There are a few other funds that sex workers in certain occupations in sex work can be eligible for. And we will have links for all of these at the bottom under the video. So, universal credit. It's worth checking on the government website if you are eligible for universal credit. You might think you aren't because you're a migrant, but actually universal credit will cover a lot of migrant people as well, as long as it's not clearly stated in your visa that you have no recourse to public funds. You will probably be eligible for universal credit. And the thing to remember with universal credit is that even if you apply today and your claim is processed and approved, the first payment that you will receive will still be in 5 weeks' time. So if you want to receive the money right now, you will need to ask them for an advance payment. Advance payment will end up in your bank account as soon as possible, but it will be taken out of the following payments that you receive for Universal Credit. So it's almost like a loan. And it may feel difficult to apply for it, but there is a lot of support for that. I also want to mention that if you're based in Scotland, there is a website called Social Security Scotland, which will help you make applications for Universal Credit as well as other things. Last year, a number of benefits have been devolved to Scotland from Westminster. And I think there are at least 7 different benefits available now to people living in Scotland. Some of them cover people living in poverty, others cover people who have children. So you may be eligible for those. Have a look at the website if you haven't heard about this before. Again, the link to the website will be under the video. Now, if you're a sex worker in the UK and you're registered as self-employed, you may be eligible for the Self-Employment Income Support Scheme. You will be eligible if you have filed your tax returns for the year 2018 to 2019. If you have traded as self-employed in 2019 and you would otherwise, virus not included, would be trading right now, and you are planning to still be self-employed in the year 2021. If all these conditions are met, HMRC will contact you themselves. You do not need to do anything. What will happen is you will receive a lump sum covering at least 3 months. At the moment, it's not clear whether that's going to be March to May or April till June, but you will receive a sum covering 3 months of you being off work, and you will receive it in June. So until that money arrives, and even if you still apply for sex worker hardship funds, please, if you're eligible for it, go and apply for Universal Credit, because there is very little money going around otherwise. And finally, another pressing issue is housing. If you are a council tenant or a housing association tenant, they will not evict you. You do not need to worry about it. And as soon as you start working again, I'm sure that you will find a way of paying the rent in arrears. If you have a private landlord, they still can't evict you. Well, when we say 3 months, that decision was made in mid-March. So at the moment, it's probably for the next 2 months. But you will need to get in touch with your landlord to let them know that you can't pay your your rent at the moment. And once the lockdown is over and people get back to work, you will need to get in touch with your landlord again to come up with a system of you paying back the rent that you owe them for the 3 months when you haven't been doing that. There are some template letters that you can look up online, and we will try to, again, put a link to one of those under the video. And it's almost the same with mortgages. If you can't be making your mortgage payments at the moment, you are entitled to mortgage holidays for 3 months. And all you need to do is to contact your mortgage provider or the bank. And finally, if you're struggling to pay your utility bills at the moment, especially if you have one of those top-up keys, please contact your supplier, and as far as we know, most of them will actually supply you with a key that will I don't actually know what exactly is going to happen, but you will not be expected to feed your meter with the money right now. Now, even if you apply for universal credit, there is no guarantee that it's going to, the money is going to just magically appear in your bank account next week. So while all this is going on and there is little money in your bank account, if you feel that you can't afford to pay for the food, you may consider using food banks. Most of the food banks in the UK are run by Trussell Trust. Unfortunately, you can't just turn up there. You need to have a referral. These are usually made by your GP or social services. Citizens Advice can also do that. At the moment, they can do that over the phone. But if you contact the nearest bank and speak to them, they will give you a list of various local charities who can also refer you to them. I think some of the banks in London and in Manchester will also accept a referral from NUM. So give NUM a call and you will get your referral. Citizens Advice Bureau will refer you to a food bank regardless of your legal status in the country. And so will, I'm sure, some local charities. And finally, depending on your health or the age or the health of some of the people in your household, if you prefer to self-isolate at the moment and not leave your house at all, you might have to access mutual aid groups in the UK. There is a link under this video to a page which lists all the cities in the UK with all the available mutual aid groups. These are just groups of people, volunteers who are prepared to do the shopping for you. You will need to contact the nearest group that you can find and ask them for help and support. However, if your health allows you to volunteer in this capacity for other people, this might be a good opportunity to do so, as well as if you've not been in touch with other sex workers in your area before, this is a good opportunity for you to get in touch with them right now and see if there is anything you can do for them if you yourself are actually doing quite well at the moment. And finally, now that we're talking about healthcare, please remember that if you have, if you think you have symptoms of COVID-19, you are entitled to free service from NHS. You will be tested for free. If your test is negative, you will not be charged for it. If your test is positive, you will receive any treatment to ease any and all of your symptoms, also free of charge, regardless of whether you're in the country legally or not, whether you're a refugee or a migrant or a citizen. So if you think you're having troubles with your health because of COVID-19, please dial 111 and see what NHS can do for you. Finally, I'm sure there are some things that we haven't covered. You probably have questions about the things we have covered. So there are two caseworkers at NUM, Hannah and Carolyn, who will help you with literally any questions that you might have. They will probably know the answer. If they don't know the answer, they will know somebody who knows. Give them a call or email them. You can see there the times when they are available to answer the call. Also, we will be able to answer your questions, whether you send us a tweet at NUM or NUM Research and Development Team. If you don't feel comfortable doing it through publicly through social media, you're very welcome to send us a direct message on Twitter. We will do our best to pick up all the questions as soon as we can and give you an answer as soon as we can. And finally, please remember that NUM casework team is still here to take the reports of violence against you. So if you're still doing in-person sex work, we will support you in that. If you have moved to sex work online, especially if you have not done that before, you may struggle with online harassment or other types of hate crimes you have not come across before. Please remember you can still report them and the caseworkers will still support you through anything you have to go through. And well, best of luck to everybody with everything. And if some of your questions weren't answered, or you feel that options for people, especially migrants and undocumented migrants in the UK, have not been sufficiently covered, we are planning the next webinar, which will cover options for specifically undocumented migrants. So please stay tuned if these are the questions that you have, and maybe text us, send us your questions in advance so we could cover them in that webinar. Thank you for staying with us and hopefully see you again. Bye.